Today I'll start out again showing my online access and use of Kindle Fire as it relates to Molasses Moon. It shows the green light that I respect or admire, appreciate, whatever you want to call it, and the Kindle Fire with some of my books on here. I think I'll start out today talking a little bit about, since without Kindle there are a lot of authors and Amazon's KDP. A lot of people wouldn't be getting published, and this is the current avenue for people that aren't set up to go through the large New York publishing houses. And a lot of this, you have background on all this with Molasses Moon. So I think what I'll do to start with today is describe a little bit of how, as a writer, you might want to use Kindle to your best advantage if you're publishing on here. One of the main things I notice is reading and publishing on Kindle is obviously a different venue than most of us have used before. And most writers are still, understandably, stuck with the old systems and want to be published on Kindle, but yet don't quite want to take the time to really understand the device. So I recommend, number one, have a Kindle yourself. And you might be surprised to know that a lot of people, I don't know how many, I shouldn't say a lot, but I have a feeling it might be the writers publishing their own books on Kindle don't even have a device, don't read from it. When I first started publishing, like many authors, and I understand this reason, you live a long time, it seems like, with an extremely low budget, because it takes so long to make any money as a writer. And according to what I've shown in this book, most people that write never do or quit fairly early, maybe before even writing an actual book. When you're reading on Kindle, one of the main issues is navigation. And there are plenty of things you can do to make this a lot easier. The first thing I want to know when I'm reading a book is how long is it, and I really prefer if there's a table of contents with hyperlinks in it so you can easily go back and forth. And I've just started working myself just with the Kindle device and all the possible functionality you can work into it. And all this I do just from Microsoft Word, that program. You can make hyperlinks within the book from your table of contents to each chapter or to any place in the book. In the opening of my books, I'll show you this one here that I've got on here. It's more of a medium-sized book with different chapters. I'll click on that. Oops, that timed out again, but I'll go ahead and click on it and show you the hyperlinks I've put in there. It's not that difficult to teach yourself. All this stuff I had to teach myself to do. For the privilege of the tremendous opportunity both for publishing on Kindle, and especially since you don't have to put any money up front, but like as self-publishing used to cost thousands of dollars, and then you usually never recapped any of that. But there's no cost up front. You just learn how to use the KDP dashboard program, and a lot of this is self-taught. And you can either upload documents from Microsoft Word or from, if you know HTML, then you're ahead of me, and probably can do more. But I've just worked from Word, so this makes something a little bit more accessible to writers that have not gone on to learn about what would you call it, web savvy, designing websites and so forth. Using Microsoft Word, it's fairly easy by using the insertion, what would you call it, menu for hyperlinks and bookmarks. So all you do is make a bookmark within the book to a chapter or wherever you want to have a hyperlink go to internally within the book. You bookmark that page, and then you go to the front of the book, like if it's your table of contents, and you highlight like chapter 1 and say hyperlink to add a hyperlink, and then you'll say you want a hyperlink inside the book. That will show you your bookmarks that you can choose one, or at that point you can't make one unless you've already set one up in your file. And I don't want to go into a lot of detail because people that aren't writers, that don't want to publish, don't want to have something to publish, might not be interested. But what I found out being a writer is that most people I know, especially writing my visceral histories and seeing how popular memoirs are now, most people have something they wouldn't mind writing and having published, even if it's just a short work or a short story or a little segment of their life they'd like to write about. So maybe it might be of interest to more people than you might think. So here we have this book that I will click on. So having your own Kindle, oops, I don't want that one because it's a short book. On my books, I've either got short visceral histories that are actually longer than a lot of short stories, and then they have photo series, so there's a little bit more meat to them than just a short story on Kindle. So I have either 99-cent books that are all short works, visceral histories with photos, or I have books that are $2.99 or $3.99 that are full-length books, either murder mysteries, science fiction, or non-fiction full-length books. So anything of mine you see that's above 99 cents, it's usually book length rather than a short work. This is medium. So I get my finger in the right place. It's hard because I'm going from the opposite mode here. Oh, it's already on there. I've already put it, the book cover. I've already clicked it. I also design my own book covers. All I do is use the simple paint program. I have a lot of photographs. You can just take one that will represent what you want to, and then when you go in the paint program, you just use the text or the writing tool, or the typing, put in your title. I've got that little logo I use for my publishing company, Kindle Glow Books. And I just found that in most, what do you call them? Just letters that you use for type style. I can't even think of the name. Wingdings, maybe. There was a little house in there, and I just copied that and pasted it in here. And since it's a public domain type of thing that you can use, isn't copyrighted, I'm using that for my logo. And then you see here, as you go to the next page, on the second page, since sometimes I design my covers in such a way that they look nice but might not be real easy to read all the print, the second page of most of my books is sort of a title page, but not really. It's just giving you clear print of what is on the cover. And then usually on that page too, the first thing up, I'll give some hyperlinks like this that will allow you access to all parts of the book fairly quickly, and then you can always go back to the cover or the beginning in order to get here. to navigate quickly again. So if I'm going to click on the table of contents, just a normal hyperlink, then on a tablet like this, the Kindle Fire, you just tap on it. Now here, these are all live hyperlinks, so to go to any part of this book, you can click on the hyperlinks. And the second thing I want is not just how to navigate in the book quickly, but I kind of like to have an idea of how long it is and what's in it, which the table of contents will tell you partially what's in it, at least. Now I'm going to try to tap here in the middle of the page without clicking a link in order to get the menu on the bottom to come up. And here, as you've seen before, this says location 116 of 1504. If you read very many Kindle books, and this again, I say you should be doing this. Also, for two reasons: just to know how the Kindle works, and to see how your own books look on there and how they function on there. Oh, and I think I didn't mention, but you've seen before, it gives you the percentage too. That's 7% into the book. I like to know this, since you can't just flip the pages of the book. But this does make this easy, and if you read on Kindle a lot, then you know what you need to be able to access the book easily and take care of what might be considered liabilities of people that prefer physical books. But once you read on Kindle for very often, they're no longer liabilities, and you notice the assets way more. And one of the main ones I like is when you get to, let's see, maybe I'll go here to, I don't know, part 1, preface. I'll go to the essay opening. Let's see what that shows. I try to, when I can, put a photo that is appropriate on the first opening page that relates to the story. What else do I want to say? I realize this seems like a lot of work. Well, it is, but you're getting a book published that, unless you've read Molasses Moon, and there aren't very many other books that really say what it's like. If you're just a regular person, especially writing something that isn't precisely what the New York publishing houses are literally told in some ways to have on their list. And there is politics involved, very definitely, on what gets published and how. They have several different types of editors often that go through books, especially if they're by, or a book that might sell fairly big, or by a famous author. One editor, you'll have a copy editor that just reads for errors after the book is at a point that it's been internally edited by an internal, or a, what do you call that? Internal editor. That's what most people think an editor is. Where they go and change syntax and take out parts, ask you to add parts, just edit the book internally. And then you have maybe legal editors that will go through a book just looking for any potential legal issues that might come up. Not all books are going to have those problems, but sometimes they'll have several different types of editors for certain books. And on Kindle, if you are a seasoned writer and can do your own editing, some authors really can't, even if they know how to edit. You get too close to your book, and so sometimes you just can't see literal typos or spelling errors, even though you have spell check. So you can hire an editor if you want, or do your own. But mostly I wanted to talk here about the Oh, the formatting and using the Kindle assets and avoiding the liabilities by using a hyperlink table of contents at least. And also I recommend, like I say, owning your own Kindle. They're not that expensive, and reading books on Kindle. And reading books that you like and enjoy, so that you are actually a reader using Kindle for your own reading enjoyment. It's just going to help you quite a bit with publishing something that might have fewer roadblocks to success. However, the first roadblock is even to get people to buy it, and I won't go into that anymore. I have gone into the Kindle Select programs and the free books promo, but there are a lot of things you can do. You just kind of ramble around on Amazon and look at what they have, and you can write book reviews on other books to get some attention, books that might be similar to your book. But I think you need to be careful and considerate there, that you don't just come across as a person running through Amazon screaming your name and your book titles and beating a drum. I mean, there are obnoxious ways to advertise. The more subtle, the more effective, I think. The more you create curiosity by what you don't say, I think can be effective more than what you do say. And I need to, as I usually am, I need to practice what I preach more usually, but I do the best I can. So, the other thing, by having your own Kindle, they give you an email address that you can use to mail your own documents to your Kindle. So most of my books, well, all of my books, I have emailed to Kindle several times in my editing phases. Not only to edit the book, it's much easier to do editing when you're reading it in a Kindle form, which makes it feel more like a published book. I can see a lot more. I can read with more. I'm losing words today, or I'm not finding them or something. More awareness of how it comes across, or how it might come across to a reader, as opposed to yourself. So just the editing is easier because of the format. So I'll read the book and find things I want to change. I'll highlight them, make notes, and then later, after I've done enough and feel like when you used to just type a book, you'd need a clean copy after a while, before the days of computers, that you could just insert, reprint, print out a page or two that you had changed. You still get to a point where you need a clean copy, so I'll fix all the things that I highlighted and made notes on in my computer, usually use a netbook. And then I'll upload it again, delete the original copy on my Kindle. And documents can be deleted permanently. In fact, they are deleted usually. I think they might have changed that now and allow your documents to stay on, if you want them to, in your archives, in what they call the Amazon cloud. Any books you buy on Amazon, or movies, like for the Kindle Fire, you can store in the Amazon cloud free. And that's kind of nice, I think, because if you buy movies for your Kindle, if you buy them rather than rent them, you can take up a lot of space real quick on whatever storage devices you use. So buying from Amazon and storing on Amazon is just a nice, one of those niceties. So what else? So I email my books in process, my manuscripts, to my Kindle, and then I check all the formatting. I check every hyperlink that I have in the book, click on it to see if it works right. Another nice advantage of having a Kindle with its assets, and especially Kindle Fire, is that it's very easy to go online from the book. So I do also put hyperlinks in my books if they're appropriate, or if they somehow relate to the book, to go online to an actual website. I think that's kind of another nicety that Kindle makes available that you can't do in a physical book. Now, I still like physical books. Love them. I mean, if you're a writer and you don't love physical books, I mean, that's where you're going to have your work presented. It's like the art of your book is a physical book. So, I mean, if you're not in love with physical books, you're not a writer. And if you're a writer and not an, I don't know, the reverse is true too, probably, but I don't know how to say that either. I'm getting in a time here where I'm either doing a lot of doubling, which if you want to know about, read Carlos Castaneda or watch the other videos if you haven't, especially 34 and 35, where the essence of that comes in. So I'm recently having a hard time tracking and not losing my train of thought. These things, just for your own benefit, though, to know, are usually temporary. Some people might think they're having some kind of a brain problem that's serious, a brain disease or something. Often it's just a cycle. A lot of astrological cycles will cause memory problems temporarily because they're using your body. They're doing different types of maintenance. One of these cycles is when Pluto or Scorpio, especially Pluto, is really strong. I kind of laugh at the fact that Pluto's been demoted to not being a planet. I've watched it enough, worked with it enough, that I know that planet, or whatever they want to call it, has a lot of power, a lot of radiative power, if you want to call it that, in our lives. That's what usually puts a person in a temporary time of having short-term memory problems, or like I talk about here, where I'm talking about a subject and all of a sudden just lose the train of thought. That's also related to a magnesium deficiency. And since I've got so many issues at 64 years old, living a lifetime with almost no liver function, there's a lot that the magnesium input I'm working with is dealing with. When I was to the point where I needed oxygen, where I'd had 3 heart attacks earlier, stopped those before I knew about magnesium with lavender. And this is what I believe, my personal opinion. Other people think this is scary and I shouldn't even say anything. I don't recommend anybody use my methods, because other people can use the regular medical profession, and if they feel more comfortable doing that, that is their choice. But back to Kindle. At least I remember what track I was on right now. Reading your story on Kindle, and as I say, I go back and forth several times, correcting things in a manuscript and downloading them or emailing them to my Kindle, and then rereading it again, testing all the hyperlinks I have, whether they're internal places in the book or to going online. So that little mini class here about if you're a writer and want to publish on Kindle, it's a tremendous opportunity. It's a gift to be able to publish without the censorship ahead of time, without having to have thousands of dollars up front. And most often, if you self-publish, you're going to do that and not get anywhere. The money's going to go down the drain, except that you have a copy of your book, and a few might sell. So this is really an opportunity to be thankful for. And it's worth your time, if you want to publish on Kindle, to try to use the assets it has to learn about it, to get your own Kindle. And for just basic reading, like most people are using theirs, I'd recommend that you get one of the electronic ink regular Kindles that do not have color. They're not a tablet. You can go online, and I've showed in one of my videos, I did show the electronic ink version of Molasses Moon. And again, I'm still basing off of that series. So this video will be number 57. I still haven't uploaded number 56. I think I'll sidetrack there now, because I've covered, at least for the time being, just the concept of if you want to publish on Kindle, do a little bit of preparatory work and give your book a chance by learning what it's like to own a Kindle, to read on a Kindle. And since the original, I think you can get one for $69, $79, I'd still recommend going a little bit further and getting a Kindle keyboard. But to make your choices on those things, of course, there are thousands of reviews on every style of Kindle, so you can read some of those to get an idea of which one might work best for your needs. What else? Of course, Amazon can't afford to treat each person publishing on Kindle as a, what we would call it, I say prima donna, but VIP, whatever you want to call it. What's required is initiative and teaching yourself and follow through. There's forums on or discussions or whatever you want to call them that you can use on the KDP site. I haven't gotten into those too much. Knowing me, I'm pretty much of an individualist, but I think those can be extremely helpful for people that can use that venue more easily. I just normally use trial and error with my Word program, uploading what I'm working on. Now I lost my train of thought again. And this one's probably just about long enough. I did want to mention though about my video number 56. I'm not sure if I'm going to upload that one. What I'm doing now, I did a lot worse there. And whatever the cause, I'm sure it's related both to magnesium deficiency and possible work I'm doing in some kind of a paranormal realm or function. Still though, even with the jumping around a little bit from subject to subject and back and forth and weaving between a few different themes that I'm working, I'm mixing metaphors too. The last one I was using metaphors about food and about weaving, like actual weaving of macrame and weaving of themes and that kind of thing. So, but the information there, I think, is well worth it. And in some ways, there are advantages to that way of learning. I won't talk about that now, it would be another sidetrack. But it uses the right brain more. And so by my using my right brain more, which actually uses a lot more physical energy, and I usually have a very short supply of that, all my life I have with liver problems. When I use that right brain method more and go, well, like I call using also lightning logic to a degree that I also talked about in Molasses Moon, that will probably trigger your right brain a little bit more. And if you can just relax and go with it, and then later you'll just pull out the little pieces in there like little gems, or like Sam Carlson mentioned in the epilogue in Molasses Moon. He called them exploding pearls of wisdom. They're here, they're there, and they'll stay in your memory. And then the things you want to link together in a more organized way, you could just slip over to your left brain and do that with the knowledge I've presented or the information, if you want to. But as far as uploading that one, there is a lot of value to it that I wouldn't be able to repeat by redoing the video. I need to work right now more spontaneously ad-lib with my right brain, because I still have some serious health issues the magnesium's working with, including that tumor. And it takes a lot, it's just sapping a lot out of me. So I need to work with my right brain as much as possible, both in writing and in this. just to conserve energy, if nothing else. But there is a lot of value there. And the one thing that occurred, that using right brain and not being too tightly organized ahead of time in your speaking, is it allowed me to take a little sidetrack to a fly that was on my screen door and open the door to give it an easy exit without having the final exit of death. And I wondered why that came in. Everything I believe in synchronicity, and that when you're working this way, almost every little accident has meaning and message and purpose. And what came to mind, and I think I mentioned it in the video, the fly in the ointment. And that fits what I'm been discussing, and I will continue to discuss, because each time I shift from a train of thought and a theme to another one, the one I've left previously is somewhat unfinished, and periodically I'll pick those up again and move them a little bit further ahead. So, the fly in the ointment. It was a great UC insert. When you see these videos, I think it'll become all too clear exactly what that means there. And maybe if for no other reason than that coming through, I might upload that video, even though it doesn't show me in any way in my best light, as I attempt to do for subjects that I write about in my visceral histories. And today I didn't get to do anything at all on moving that code, visceral history code, forward, as I did mention in, now I'm not sure now whether it was video 56 or 55. I think that was also in 56. So I think that taking a risk myself, not coming across real well, but with the value in it, potential value for people that view it, I think I'll go ahead and upload it, but we'll see. I might change my mind and cower it out later. So this time, looks like I stayed on somewhat on one track of trying to show what Kindle readers might appreciate from people that self-publish on Kindle. In addition to good stories, good writing, and good editing. But for readers and writers both, you never get to a point of perfection in publication. Might have done that a little bit more in days gone by, and that was partially because we were slower, our society was slower. The way we did things was not at such a fast, frenzied pace. Profit margins weren't so needed to be dramatic. The publishing industry has never been a high profit margin industry, as very few people are aware. I've mentioned and discussed this in Molasses Moon, and also mentioned Jeff Herman's guides. In those, he gives some background in the publishing industry and explains how and why it really isn't all that profitable. So if you think you're going to get picked up and carried by a big New York publishing house and get an $8 million advance like Stephen King did at one point several years ago to write, I don't know if it was a few books or how many contracts to write them that much in advance. Believe me, I think he earned that too. There's an interesting little excerpt I read about Stephen King getting his first book published, Carrie, and I'm not going to relay that at this point. I'm going to wind this down and end this one. But if you're interested, you might Google that. It's kind of a heartwarming, interesting story. He had a long road too, and it wasn't easy. And even once you become an author that can get an $8 million advance, don't think that doesn't give you some pressure for your creative process. I'm not sure I could handle that. In some ways, I think my route of still making under $100 a month royalties, but being able to do it my way, according to Frank Sinatra's song, it's worth it. This was my path of heart, according to Don Juan and Carlos Castaneda. This is definitely my path of heart, and I'm thankful for it and for the higher guidance I'm sure I had to go this route. So thanks to every higher power and human and even entity, if those are involved, spirits that help me on my path. And we'll sign off on this one. Maybe do more. Big changes, though, are coming in my future here shortly. So I'm not sure what that will do to this fairly regular uploading of this type of commentary video basing off of the reading of Molasses Moon. And if you're interested, the actual end of the reading of the book itself occurred somewhere in the 40s, number 40s of this video series, starting with number 1 of the reading of the preface of Molasses Moon. I don't remember if it's 47, 48. And then after that, I still read pieces of like the introduction and the dedication, a few reviews, a few of the external, and adjuncts. I don't know what the word is at the moment. So, sun's trying to think about setting. We're into daylight savings time, which makes me moan and give primal screams and all kinds of complaints, especially as an astrologer that has to translate too many times from too much manipulation of time. So it's a little after 6 Mountain Daylight Time, March 13th, Tuesday. Signing off and wishing you the best in your life.